Okay, talking about pressure, T, and challenges that, us as student athletes have to go through. What challenge have you had to face, alone or throughout your career that people do not see, if it's on court, if it's off court, what's the hardest challenge you had to face?
Yeah, I think personally, like, especially being in college, there's a lot of, like, at least for me personally, there's a lot of pressure because I actually wrote an article for the Register about this, but like, being a student athlete in itself is so hard because you have to go to classes, you go to practice, you have matches, especially being in season, you're out for the weekend, you don't have your weekends off and stuff like that. And so dealing with that in itself is a lot of pressure. And also for me personally, time management with all the other stuff that I do, I'm still expected to, in a way, be good at the other stuff and like still show up for people and still I have, tasks to do. I have deadlines to meet. I also work. So things like that in itself is a lot of pressure. And I don't talk about it a lot because in a way, I don't like to make people feel guilty or feel bad that I'm going through it. Cause at the end of the day, I always think, I chose this life. We choose to do this. You choose to do all the things that you do. So it's like we choose it and we know it's the hard part, but we also, with that comes a lot of pressure and stress and all these different things. And just even being on the court itself is a lot of pressure. You have to try and be there for your teammates. Even you talking about, being captain and having to show up for them and being the one to kind of anchor and keep everything together. Like it's a lot. And I think for me, there's harder days, there's good days, there's bad days. And I think sometimes just being grateful, like I just try to be grateful that I have the opportunity to even do all the things that I do, and that helps me kind of get through it. But again, it's still some days I'm like, I don't always want to be the smiley, bubbly person. Some days I'm like, guys, I had a match yesterday and I have to come back and like I have to take pictures for this, or I have to be on set for that, or go work for this. So it's a lot, but at the end of the day, you choose it. So something has to give, and that's just that. Yeah.
I love that, T. And, you're talking about how it's hard to talk about these things, and you try your best always to not show it, to hide it, to just keep showing up, keep working, keep pushing.
Yeah.
But from a side, as you said, like, you don't want to be the always the sad friends, always negative, always, oh, I'm tired, but we are tired, like for real,
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah,
But also, like, most of the time you're around the same people that do the same or maybe as much as you do, We're all in the same position, we're all running, we're all practicing, we're all playing on the weekends. So I feel like in a way, like, we're expected for it to be normal, it's just our life. That's how we're gonna live for 4 years. But it actually is very hard, where you have to be on the bus after playing for 5 hours, and on the
yeah,
bus
dude.
driving back doing your homework that is due that same night. It's actually very stressful to keep up with everything because in college and just students like struggle a lot with time management. Just expect like, a student athlete struggling with time management, but then there's student athletes that also have another life, another passion, other like part of different groups, of different like things they want to be part of. And as you said, we choose to be part of this, but it's actually very stressful. Yeah, as you said, we chose this life, but I honestly wish like I always tell this to like, the administrators that I'm friends with. I'm like, we need more like, mental health days. Like one a
Yeah.
year or one a semester is not enough. We need more, guys.
Mhm.
Like we need more days like to breathe. I don't know. It is very hard to manage, but I think like that's where us, at least as student athletes, find our excitement is. That's where we find our passion. That's where we thrive, honestly, because when you
Exactly.
have, I remember there was a team that got caught in our conference, Eastern, and so there was a random weekend 2 weeks ago where we don't play anymore because we're supposed to play them. The team doesn't exist anymore. And so I remember that was like my first weekend off since I got back, like for the whole spring. And I literally was asking myself, like, what am I gonna do? Like, I mean, I did all my homework because I thought I'm gonna play. I don't have anything to do. And then I found myself like baking for the first time in like a whole year,
Oh,
deep cleaning, like just doing like random things because, I didn't have anything to do. And, so I think, yeah, in a way, it's what we want. It's what we chose to do, but it is very hard to manage. And unfortunately, as you said, people don't know it because we choose to not speak about it, but also like it's expected to be the normal life, as you said.
yeah.
But talking about that mental discipline, that you have, what does motivation look like for days where, a lot of days where you just want to lay in bed, not do anything, you don't have social battery for anything. So what motivates you those days and what keeps you going and, keeps you trying and showing up?
Yeah, I think I definitely got better, especially this year. Like after, because I can't lie, like last year I was extremely burnt out. So, and I remember going
Mm,
back home and being like, I didn't even do much during the summer. Like it was almost like being home with my family and just really disconnecting from all, because I was
yeah.
always like, go, 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 never stopping. Like it was just a lot, right? And you get burnt out and stuff. And then I remember telling myself, okay, Tabeth, like this year, like give yourself space to just breathe and rest, whatever that is. I used to not even take naps before. Like, it's like, no, I can never do a nap. I can never like let myself, I always had to fill my days with something, even after practice. And I told myself, okay, this semester, I really want to give myself space to like breathe. And so, I got a scooter and sometimes, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I'll go to a coffee shop and get myself coffee. I'll do little things in my days to just give myself like a little treat. I'll go and like maybe get myself like I said, coffee, or I'll go and maybe hang out with a friend I haven't hung out in a minute. And also just giving myself time to be by myself and not always I really value like alone time. And like you said, the social battery sometimes is just not it. So just and also being more open about that in a way helps too. Like sometimes I'll communicate to people like, "Hey guys, like my social battery is not here right now. I'm so sorry. Like give me time, give me space to like be on my own." So I think being more open about it and allowing yourself to like just breathe was a big thing. And then what keeps me motivated is just like knowing that the work that I do will always come out with something fulfilling in the end, no matter how hard it is, no matter how bad the days might be. I know that even if I don't feel it now, maybe 10 years from now, I'll be able to say, "Hey, like I did all that so I can do this now." And even just being able to advise like younger kids, like I think a lot about other student athletes that are coming up who are in high school or even in middle school, maybe one day being able to mentor them with my experience. So maybe me going through this will help them. So whenever you think about what motivates you, when you think about a greater purpose, it's like, okay, this makes it worth it. So I think, a combination of those things like kind of help me.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. That's all about trusting the process, right? And believing
Mhm.
that everything happens for a reason. But I really love how you shared, those days where you're not motivated, where you just want to, give up, chill for a day or a week or whatever, you're thinking ahead and you're thinking ahead of how you're going to be able to give back if you survive today, how you're going to
Mhm.
be able to give back when you're gonna show up today on court and practice when you don't want to, and that's just, that's a really good perspective to look, at, and and I'm sure that does motivate you because that's really amazing to think about it this way. But again, talking about, trusting the process, keep showing up, keep trying, keep working. What does trusting God look like for you when, the outcome is not guaranteed, when you don't know if you're gonna play again, you don't know if you're gonna be good again, what does trust in God look like for days like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like sometimes when you talk about faith, like being in school, sometimes I feel because you're constantly go, 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 you feel so far away from your faith. And it's not until you take time to like settle down. This is for me personally, but it's not until I take time to like really settle down that I can find the faith again. And it's a constant like battle for me to like keep it alive because again, when you numb yourself for so long, it's very hard to like feel the faith, feel the presence of like God or whatever it is that you believe in. So it's very hard to feel it, but then you always know in the back of your mind that it's there. So you always know that you'll find it again. I think that's kind of also what trusting the process means is like knowing that no matter what happens, like it's still there. My faith is still within me. I think for me, I'm a very spiritual, more of a spiritual person. So faith isn't really something that I worship. It's more something that is exists within myself. And if I don't hone it, if I don't nurture it, then I won't be able to actually experience the feelings of it. So in a way, it's trusting the process so that you can feel the connection again. And you're constantly just, it's up and down. Some weeks are better than others. Some days are better than others. And then it's just like, just trying to find that again. But also just knowing you have that at least as an anchor point helps a lot. It's like, okay, if I don't feel it today, I know I'll feel it next week and I'll feel it again maybe 2 weeks from now. And then, yeah, it's just like you said, trusting the process. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. See, talking about, as you said, how we're always on the go. You seriously don't think about it,
Mhm.
and not just, yes, about faith, but a lot of other things. Like, you forget about your purpose, you forget about your real passions, you forget about your why, and it's very tough, when you're in the middle of like season, middle of the pressure, always like thinking of the next day, the next match, the next practice. It's very hard, to sit back and remember, why you're doing all of this and why you believe and what keeps you going. But also talking about what keeps us grounded, right? What's been like the most thing that kept you grounded when the season is done? Or when you are not competing, or when you go practice on your own and no one's watching, what keeps you going? What keeps you grounded on days like that?
Mhm. Um, yeah, that's a really good question. I think for me, my answer kind of like has changed now, especially because like you said, I've always been very family oriented, but being on my own now, I've kind of had to really count on myself more because obviously, like, I have three younger siblings, I have my parents, and I'm very grateful for them and like the foundation they've given me. But I also know that, they're being the older sister too is its own like deal of like its own trauma, whatever. So it's kind of like, okay, I know that my parents are focused on nurturing them and giving them the foundation that I had, like my younger ones. And so I kind of had to like figure it out on my own and kind of just like trial and error with it. And what keeps me like the most grounded I've found is like my alone time. I'll go on walks and I'll just listen to music. I'll go sit in a park somewhere by myself and just like let myself think, be in my thoughts, let myself feel what I'm feeling. And that's what keeps me grounded is coming back to myself. That's like the biggest thing because you're constantly surrounded by your teammates. You live with them. You're constantly surrounded by students. You're constantly around, you're in college. It's just bubble of like people all the time. So sometimes you have to really just come back to yourself. And then that's what keeps me grounded, to be honest with you, just spending like alone time and like sometimes isolating myself. I'm not going to lie. I do that sometimes just to kind of like remember who I am, what I am, being true to myself. And,
Yeah, and there's no wrong in that, reconnecting with yourself, I think is the best way, to get back, on track, to get back on the right path.
mhm,
But I loved how you said, let myself feel what I need to feel. And that's just amazing, and that just hits so hard for me because, again, now like that it's time for me to realizing, that, okay, this is over, and looking
mhm,
back and trying to learn from what I did right, but also what I did wrong, and realizing that, a lot of times throughout my career, not just this year, where when something, when a loss or something bad or a disappointment in myself happens, we always tend to allow ourselves feel that, be like, oh my God, like, why did I do that? How I'm gonna, deal with it next time, how I'm gonna try to avoid it, what's the purpose behind all of that? But I feel like I've realized, at least for myself, it didn't allow myself to feel the highs, but mostly the lows, I always like, when a good win
yeah,
happens or when a good practice happens, like even small things, like I should
yeah,
celebrate like me surviving a hard practice. I should celebrate me, I don't know, doing a new PR in like the training room at, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., whatever it is.
yeah,
I should celebrate me doing 4 years of college right now, like, and I feel like, unfortunately, us student athletes, we always tend to let ourselves feel more the lows and try to learn from that, but not the highs. I feel like we kind of expect ourselves, like, okay, well, I was expected to win. No, you were not. You're not. Yeah, you're good, but you're not always expected to win. Like, looking back at your season, like, you, for example, now coming back and like playing and fighting through that. Maybe you didn't have the best year, but you should still celebrate, you coming back and trying and showing up and being patient with yourself. And I feel like, unfortunately, again, like we don't realize that, and we probably only will realize that when it comes to an end. Cause I just realized that now, when I
yeah,
have a week left to finish.
right,
So I feel like,
yeah,
we have to stop thinking that we were expected to be that good. We were expected to come back from a surgery, that we were expected to keep playing through it all, keep showing up, to support your teammates when you're not playing, because you're not expected. You know how many people gave up, how many people quit during those times. So I feel like, yes, letting yourself feel. is the right thing to do and a really good choice to do for yourself, but allowing yourself to also feel the lows and to also celebrate like the highs, like I feel like that's very big. And again, like, as a senior, just realizing that now, I hope that helps you or whoever is listening to us, like, guys,
Yeah,
whatever it is, small, because like we do judge ourselves when we do something small wrong,
yeah.
When you forget to bring, I don't know, a hat for practice when it's sunny outside, you're gonna hate yourself for the rest of the day. But when, I don't know, you get to a ball that you never got to before, like something so small. So I think, you know, keep taking time for yourself, keep reconnecting with yourself and your purpose and your passions, but let yourself feel the highs too. That's what I'll say about that. Like I feel like,
That's so
yeah,
true.
that's a big lesson. I unfortunately learned so late, but it's okay. Like,
No,
hope
that
that
yeah.
helps you.
Yeah,
Yeah, but talking about identity right now, the difference and the changes and the growth you made from freshman to junior, and you still have a whole year left. Thinking right now of a new incoming freshman or a high school senior going to college next year, and they're struggling with their identity. A big school as North Carolina A&T, it's big on culture, it's big on finding your identity and having your own thing. What advice would you give to that freshman, coming in, whatever school they're going or whatever sport they're playing, but they're just struggling with their identity, they're struggling with their purpose? What advice would you give?
yeah, such a good question. 'Cause I'm trying to think of when I was, a freshman coming in. I had no idea, and I'm not gonna lie, like, I still think about it to this day. I'm so grateful that you were there. Like, I'm being so serious. Even if it was just for that short
Thank
amount of
you.
time, because when you have someone to tell you, like, it's okay, it changes everything. Like, seriously, you're not really in it alone. So I would say, one, being lucky enough to have someone that can tell you that, which I had with you. And then I would also tell them to, like, take it like, one, be patient with yourself, and also looking back, like, not pressuring yourself to have it all figured out, which I think you're always going to learn as you go. Like, it's just, as athletes, we're so, like you said, expected to just know everything, have everything figured out. But like, this is your first time, even for tennis specifically, being around different people, being around, like, you have teammates now that you never had teammates before, so just being patient with yourself and having the right people around you helps a lot. And also, I would say one thing, especially be at a school like here, is not losing your identity, or really any school, because you're going to be in a big environment with different people of different places, and you can take advantage with that by learning about different cultures, learning about different perspectives, but also not losing your sense of self. I think I'm really lucky in that I know exactly where I come from. So having that as like your anchor point is super important. So not forgetting where you come from and just embracing that, and also teaching other people about it too, and talking about it helps you stay connected with it, and finding people who might come from the same places as well helps you stay connected with your culture and your people. And then also giving yourself the opportunity to grow independently, and not, I see this a lot, especially with international students, which I understand completely, where they're so attached to home. They're so attached to their friends back home, their family back home. Yes, but you're also here for what, 9 months out of the year? And then we get maybe 1 month in December and 2 months in the summer. And it's like, yes, I understand you miss home, but also embrace where you are right now. Be present, and not think, don't count down until you have to go home. Yes, it's, of course, I understand the feeling, but when you do that, you forget about being here. So being present is also something I would advise anyone coming in, is like being present and taking advantage of, like, the resources around you, and because you might miss something that you didn't think you would see. So yeah, being present and then finding good people. Yeah,
That's amazing. And that's so true, for you to touch on the last point of live the moment. Be where you are, be where your feet are. And I'm not gonna lie, I struggled with that and I did that
I
wrong.
know.
I did that wrong my first 1 year and a half or 2 years at A&T, I did that wrong. I mean, I'm still very attached to home, and I tried. I remember, like, I tried. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try.
I know.
But it was so hard because I was like, walking in with the mindset of like, whatever happens in 4 years, I won't see these people again. And I think that's so wrong because, now like finally growing, finally, coming in with a new mindset of like, I can still be connected with these people, you know? It can be something big. It can be even if I go back home after this, whatever field I am, like they might be doing the same thing or having the same passion in another continent, and we can keep growing and we can keep connecting and like
Exactly.
having something bigger than ourselves, you know? And I think that's so amazing. And now, like, that changed, seriously, that changed everything in my experience in college. You know, I'm still very attached to home, but I have accepted, like, okay, my family keeps living, you know, my family keeps going, you know, back home doing what they have to do in Tunisia. I have to keep growing. I have to make new connections. I have to, like, I can't just stop my life for 9 months, as you said. Like,
Exactly.
I felt like, especially, I feel like my second year at A&T was better, but my first semester, I remember when it was season and we were always on the go, right? Like, you go every
Yeah.
weekend, you practice during the week. Like, it's never, you never get a break. And I feel like I realized that, you know, my second year where I was like, I was there for 5 months, but actually didn't meet anyone, which is crazy, you know, like,
Mhm.
and you don't really think about it till like you get a break out of it and you're like, oh, okay, well, half of my team transferred. I don't know what I'm gonna do when I'm gonna
Yeah.
come back. Like, I seriously don't know anyone, you know? And you know, it's crazy, but I think that's a really good advice. And also thank you, you know, for saying like that, you know, I helped you a lot, you know, being there and telling you that it's okay because actually it is okay. Like you're gonna figure it out. Like it's gonna be scary, you're gonna have to go through it, but at the end of the day, like you'll be fine, you know? And
Yeah.
I think that's a very big, a very good perspective to look at things, especially when you're coming into something new, scary that you don't know anything about. But yeah, talking about legacy right here, you know, talking about your passions, tennis, outside of tennis, your purpose, you know, everything that you've been through. Legacy do you want to leave beyond tennis? You know, what legacy do you want to
Uh,
be remembered for? How do you want to be remembered?
yeah. It's good that you asked that because I think legacy, like as an athlete too, is something you always want to something you strive for, right? And I think legacy now is not just about your results on the court, it's not just about the trophies you've won, especially when you're in college. It's also about the impact you have on people. And I remember like I had a conversation with someone because I had thoughts about whether I wanted to stay at A&T or whether I wanted to, move or do, as an athlete, you're always thinking about different things, about change and stuff like that. And I remember one of my friends had told me like, I support whatever you decide to do, but you're one of the best things that's ever happened to me here. Just, my friend telling me that. And, whenever you don't realize the impact you actually have on people until, until they actually communicate it. And I think for me, legacy is just that, like being able to impact people. Obviously I'm very grateful that I've given myself opportunities to be involved on campus. So just even the small things that I've done will always have a place here on campus at A&T and have a legacy. Like even people from years from now will look back and say, oh, Tabeth did that or she did this. And just having that in itself, I'm very lucky though that I've been able to hone skills that have given me the opportunity to do that. So that's what legacy looks like for me, right? It's just like having an impact on people here and in the future, and also, hopefully one day being even having conversations like this. Like who would have thought? Like I remember our first practice, like that I had with it was just you and me. We were doing the running, and I was looking at you like, oh right, this is I did not know this is how practice go. With our coach back then, and just like how hard and tough that was and then seeing where we are now and like you being able to do these podcasts and having conversations with other athletes, like that's like a legacy that we've been able to get to this point in itself is a legacy, right? So I think just that being able to still have conversation with other people in the future, talking to younger people and just being open about these very vulnerable conversations. Cause obviously, at least for me personally, I don't like to talk about certain topics. I don't want to, put my problems on other people, but just having these conversations in itself is leaving a legacy behind so people can learn from us. They can also be able to talk about how they're feeling. We're all a community and it all helps us.
Love that, T. And I love that you realizing that the real legacy you leave is the impact you have on people. It's
Hmm.
not really like, you know, any stats, like that is important. That's true. That is important as a student athlete. But you know how many people have good stats and good records, whatever. They were not liked at their school. They were not
Exactly.
liked by their team. They were not respected or respecting anyone. So I think like the impact you leave on people is the best thing, that's going to be remembered because you like it or not, whatever record you have, whatever stats you have, like one day someone is going to come and do better. Sports keep evolving, sports keep growing, new things coming in every year, new rules. Like, so I think, yeah, as you said, the amount of people you're going to meet from different places of the world, from different cultures, different languages, whatever it is, like the impact you're going to leave is the most important thing, and how you want to be remembered as you talked about. But yeah, again, thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared with us today, for sharing your story, your passions, your purpose, everything. We loved having you here and I enjoyed so much this conversation. And yeah, do you have any final message for younger T, or any younger
Yeah.
athletes out there?
Mhm. I would say, like, for me, my biggest thing, like, even I tell my sisters all the time and my teammates all the time is like, please, 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 like, I think I got lucky, but find something outside of your sport that can give you the same amount of purpose and passion. And even if it's like the simplest thing, like hang out with your friends, or even if it's just like, I don't know, maybe something you're passionate about with school and I don't know, and do research about it or talk to your professors or network or even get a job on campus or get a job off campus, just anything that can give you purpose. Because I promise you, like I always say, like my creativity saved my life. That's like the one thing I've always said. Like for me, finding my creative passions literally saved me because that kind of became my like coping mechanism from chaos of being a student athlete and playing tennis and all the pressures. So that's my biggest advice. And also just being grateful because you never know. Like you said, you're coming up, this might be your last week of like playing tennis at this level. And so being grateful for the small moments, appreciating your teammates, the people around you, being respectful of everyone, no matter what it is. And yeah,
Thank you, T. And
yes,
trust me, I'm the first to take that advice with me. So yeah, thank you again. Thank you. I've loved having you here. I loved
of
having this
course.
conversation with you. And where can the people find you that are listening to us?
They can find me on like where can they find me like social works?
Yeah, like social
Yeah.
media, anything you wanna.
Yeah. You can find me at Tabeth Taddoum on Instagram. And then also like if anyone wants to ever talk about anything, just my DMs are open. And also I'm currently working on the first ever full length short film at A&T. So I might be promoting that soon. And that's again making history and like leaving a legacy behind off the court. So look out for that.
Your YouTube channel?
No, not my YouTube channel, but it will be out somewhere in social media on Instagram.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
but also guys, check out her YouTube channel. She has
Sure.
amazing messages out there, amazing advice. And
Yeah.
I still look back to that one video
No,
you made the summer I transferred. I still always look back and like watch that over and over. So yeah,
thank
thank
you.
you, T. Loved having you here.
Of
Thank you
course.
everyone that's listening to us today. And
Yes,
we
thank
hope
you
you enjoyed.
guys. Thank you.